Well, at long last, the City of St. John's has tabled a draft municipal plan. It's called Envision, and it sets a course for the city into the future. Some details to be filled in, of course. Joining me on the line now is Ryan Crocker. He's a moderator of the St. John's section of skyscrapers.com. That's a website populated by people interested in urban planning, architecture, and construction. If you've never been there, have a look. They spend a lot of time, more time even than here on The Go, talking about what happens in this city. And right now, Mr. Crocker is on the line. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Not too bad. Now, it's been less than 24 hours since this report was tabled at yesterday's council meeting. You had a chance to look at it, though. What do you make of it?
Oh, overall, I think it's brilliant. It's excellent. It sets very high standards for urban development in St. John's, and at the same time, it includes enough protections for our heritage.
All right, give me a couple of examples that you see in the report that gives you that feeling.
Just the main thing for me is that the guiding principles aren't fads. They're not new trends that are going to be disproven in a few years. They're really old, very well-proven ideas about urban planning that basically just spell out how human beings have been building great cities forever. Healthy neighborhoods, the section about that is incredibly encouraging. It talks about vibrant, complete neighborhoods where people have services within walking distance, which is critical. And it basically, to sum it up, it kind of says that neighborhoods like Georgetown and Churchill Square, will be our new minimum standard, as opposed to neighborhoods such as Kenmount Terrace or Southlands, where you really only have residential and people have to rely on their cars for absolutely anything.
Right, and does this focus on what happens from here on in? Is there any talk in the report of how we make those subdivisions that we've allowed to build up like that any better?
Yeah, it mentions it a little bit, and I'm happy to see that it basically says we're going to do that very gently, that the people who have already purchased in low-density neighborhoods, they did so for a reason. This is where they want to live. They're already there. So the city is going to encourage infill and more densification, but it's going to do so in a way that causes as little conflict and doesn't change the nature of the current neighborhoods that exist.
Now, there's another section in the report called Quality Urban Design. How do they define quality?
Just attractive. They want things that fit in with the city the way it looks now. So an example, say the Blue Drop building on Prescott Street. If you've just driven past it and not taken a good look, you could probably think it's just another row house, but it's actually a beautiful modern building with lots of glass on the side. And another example that's less heritage related would be the new Fortis building going up on Springdale Street. It's a tribute basically to hardwood lumber. That's why it has so much wood on the exterior. It's a completely modern design. The very structure of it is post 9/11 building design, where you have two separate cores. And so that's as modern as it can get, but it's still very appropriate and for St. John's and a nice homage to what was there before.
What does the report say about the way we deal with the environment, the way we deal with the water and the plants and the trees and all of that we build around and often build on top of?
It mentions, first of all, that we have to clearly determine exactly what we have. An example of that would be in the Goulds, where the city doesn't have a great idea at this time the size and scale of the wetlands that are there. And then it talks about some key points such as making sure that they're protected, but also that they're, where it's appropriate, publicly accessible and interconnected. So an example of that would be, say, the Rennie's River Trail. For most of its length, it's behind some very expensive homes, and it's something that could have easily been completely private and not accessible, but instead we have a beautiful trail there that links Pippi Park and Kitty Vidi Lake.
All right, what about a couple of topics near and dear to my heart? One of them is density. That's one of the problems that we haven't been dealing with very well here. We've been spreading out rather than getting taller and denser and putting more taxpayers per mile of street. What does the report say about that?
Encouragingly, they actually identify a few things that they're calling intensification areas. So these are places in the town that already exist where programs to increase the density would work really well. And my personal favorite that's there, and there are a lot of them, is Le Marchant Road. I hesitate to use Halifax as an example because I don't think it's really appropriate for us. I think European cities are a much better model because we have so much heritage that we want to protect. But there's one area where Halifax really exceeds us and blows us out of the water, and that's Spring Garden Road. They basically have a second Water Street. That's an eclectic mix of homes, businesses, very vibrant, walkable neighborhood. It's always very busy. And Marchant Road could be that for us. Most of the homes there already are businesses, and the ones that are homes can certainly stay. But I mean, a few more businesses up there, a few more reasons to go to the Marchant Road and walk around would completely revitalize and urbanize that neighborhood for sure.
That's an interesting idea. Anything in the report on how to get people here out of their cars and onto the buses?
Absolutely. They talk about transportation. That's another critical one, especially in St. John's, because up until now, and still today really, public transportation in our city is more like a social service. It's almost like a food bank. It's something that you don't really use unless you have no other options. Whereas in other cities, actually one of the best examples in the world of this is right here in Canada, in Vancouver, BC. They use public transit as the core of their future development. So say a neighborhood like Southlands in Vancouver, one of the first things that would go out there would be a massive public transportation hub, and then the whole neighborhood would be built around that. So you could have homes far flung in the middle of nowhere by Vancouver standards, but they're only going to be 20-30 minute train ride from downtown. Now, we can't do that with trains here, but obviously if we improve public transit so that it actually gets people where they need to go conveniently and it becomes something with absolutely no stigma attached that everybody will use, then we'll be much better off.
All right, and last but not least, does the report look at the harbor at all and how we approach it, how we face it, how we deal with it, and that what fence they got ringing it?
Yeah. The harbor's a little bit of a tricky one. It does have some ideas in the report, but obviously we have the port there right now. We have OceanX. These are incredibly important economically for our city for the time being. So there's not really a lot that we can do right now. However, it does mention that when opportunities arise in the future, say the giant parking lot by OceanX, that this land should be treated as very valuable and developed very carefully.
All right, last but not least, what about how this plan would fit into or not into an overall Northeast Avalon plan, which we've yet to see?
Yeah, regional planning is going to be critical here. The Northeast Avalon is basically one city in function, but we're divided up in government and in people's minds too, I think. And, it's not impossible to continue that way. Victoria, BC is very divided. Victoria itself isn't even the largest city in its area, Saanich is. So we can continue with the existing municipalities that we have, but there has to be a much greater focus on regional planning and regional cooperation. So I think transportation is one of the areas that this Envision report identifies as critically needing regional planning, but obviously everything in it will apply for the entire region going forward.
All right, Ryan, you like what you see. Is there anything that you wished you'd seen? Is there anything you think missing from this report?
No, not really. I like that it just contains more guiding principles, because then it gives everybody an opportunity to contribute in terms of how we achieve those, because nobody has all the right ideas. Nobody has the right ideas for every neighborhood. So it's really good that we just have these basic but highly desirable goals that open it up for all of us to contribute and decide how we get there.
All right, Mr. Crocker, I want to thank you for taking some time to talk to us today, and thank you for all your good work.
No problem. Thank you. Have a good day.